Hurricane Ian has left a trail of destruction along the southwest Florida coast and well inland. I'm Mike Nasa with this 11 p.m. update here on this Wednesday night. Boy, did we take a heck of a hit in the state of Florida from this hurricane. There's the radar imagery, and what's left of the eye wall is still a Category 1 hurricane, is right in the vicinity of Sebring, moving on off there in the direction towards areas of Vero Beach, Sebastian, Palm Bay, to say nothing of Melbourne. You guys are all under the gun from what's left of that eye wall. And Satellite Beach, further north, Titusville, it'll eventually leave Cape Canaveral and move out into the Atlantic, but not after having wrecked a lot of things in the state of Florida. There's another look at it on the water vapor imagery. What a beautiful storm. I mean, this really came together a lot more than I thought it would, a lot more than a lot of people thought it would. We knew the potential was there to become a Category 4, but I don't know, 150 miles an hour is, that's really a high Category 4. And for the upper level environment that shear it was dealing with from this trough here, dragging it, it just didn't look likely, but it went through that eye wall replacement and had a fat eye that shrunk over the hot waters, and it became a Category 4 before landfall, now weakened down to a 1, but obviously a very impressive storm. Here's the latest as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Hurricane Ian was at 27.5 north, 81.4 west, winds of 90, so it's still a powerful Category 1. Obviously, as they move over land, they lose intensity, as they're not over the water getting that rich fuel source. Moving north-northeast at 8 miles per hour, the pressure now back up into the 970s. It did get down as low as 935, 937, somewhere in there. Came ashore at about 940 millibars. By comparison, Hurricane Charlie in 2004 was 941 millibars. So it's a very dangerous storm. We do have the hurricane warning still in effect for the coastline there, the west coast of Florida, as well as here on the northeast coast, with the expectation it could still bring hurricane force winds, at least in gusts, as it exits. And we have a hurricane watch all the way up from the Flagler-Volusia County line all the way to the South Santee River, South Carolina, and a tropical storm warning all the way up to Cape Lookout, as well as watches more towards Cape Fear, that region, up to Surf City, with the anticipation in the forecast that this is going to move offshore and then with that troughiness drag up the coast and make a second landfall sometime Friday afternoon, probably in the vicinity of Charleston, Myrtle Beach, somewhere along the Georgia or South Carolina coastline there, as a strong tropical storm, perhaps a hurricane. That's why you're under the hurricane watch. The forecast track models are in pretty good agreement, bringing it to the north-northeast, and then eventually the north, and then north-northwest, the opposite of what we saw in the Gulf, as it kind of pulls into the coastline here. It could be Georgia, it could be South Carolina, but generally a landfall here as a much weaker system. It's not going to be the Category 4 beast it was in Florida, but it could be a hurricane still, and something to deal with. Here's the radar, and look at as that eye came ashore, this big, bad eye that was 7 times as large as Hurricane Charlie's eye, and it really hammered areas there in Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Sanibel Island, to say nothing of Captiva, where it actually came ashore there near Cayo Costa, Florida, and then areas of Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte. Sarasota, you guys were on the northern end, so you got nasty conditions, but nothing like what they got south of that line there. So Tampa Bay, you had winds offshore. You saw that reverse storm surge. And again, I got to hand it to meteorologist Joe Bastardi from Weather Bell. I listened to him on the radio two days ago. He said the same thing. He said it's not going to go to Tampa. One time in 101 years, they always miss Tampa. One of these days, you guys are going to get hit again. Imagine if this had made landfall right up here near Clearwater. Imagine what the surge would have been like in Tampa Bay. Unbelievable. But we saw that instead down here along the southwest Florida coast, even as far south as Naples. Power outages, so many people without power, in particular Charlotte County and areas there along the southwest Florida coast. They're working hard, but it's going to take a long time, and expect more outages as it pulls across the state with those damaging winds. I wanted to show you some Twitter action that I've been watching all day. This is from Jason Brewer on Twitter. This was a friend's house of his in Naples. There was the water. What's that water? That's unreal. Then we had this guy, Moshe Schwartz, in areas of Bonita Springs. Look at that storm surge. There's no sound in this one, but look at the cars. This is Bonita Springs near Bonita Beach. Very devastating water rises there as that storm hit. Then we have Mike Seidel from the Weather Channel. He said that he was in this backside. Listen to that sound. Sounds like a chainsaw, doesn't it? Unreal. I wanted to give props to the National Hurricane Center. Those guys do a great job there. I've been there as a guest of honor, so to speak, touring it. They have all the facilities they need for these forecasts. And look at this forecast from Friday afternoon. They hit it right on the money. You know, we were really fooled by those computer models bringing it further north, that it was going to miss the trough and hang out here in the Gulf and weaken to a Category 1. We knew if it turned more to the right, it would be a stronger hurricane. I never thought quite as strong as we gotten. This is from Alex Cordero from Twitter. He notes that obviously Hurricane Charlie 2004, it was 150 miles an hour, made landfall over Cayo Costa, Florida. The exact same wind speed and the exact same place Hurricane Ian made landfall today. Ian's track was much more wobbly here. Charlie was moving at 20 miles an hour straight through, and Charlie was August 13th. This was September 28th. So they were a little different as far as the exact date, but the intensity was the same and the landfall location was the same. However, the big difference was the size. Ian was much larger than Charlie, and we had that water pile up that we did not get with Hurricane Charlie, and that was devastating. Ian Livingston, a different Ian, posted this cool graphic, and these are the Category 4 or 5 landfalls we've had in the last 5 or 6 years. And you can see it started with Hurricane Harvey. Remember, Harvey was the first Cat 4 or higher to hit America since Charlie in 2004. So we went an entire 13 years without a Category 4 or 5, and then in the last 5 years, we've had Hurricane Harvey in Texas, Irma in the Keys, then we had Hurricane Michael, which was still the most impressive, a Category 5, way up here in the Panhandle. And then we had Hurricane Laura out in Cameron, Louisiana during the pandemic year of 2020. Hurricane Ida down here in southeast Louisiana last year. And now Hurricane Ian in southwest Florida. All of them from 130 to 160 miles per hour. This is from Dr. Phil Klotzbach from Colorado State. This is a map showing all of the Category 4 or 5 hurricanes on record in Florida. And they've added Ian. And you can see our 3 Category 5s, 1935, 1992, and Michael way up here for 2018. But again, most of them happen here in South Florida. Michael's the oddball up here. But again, this area of Florida gets hit a lot. And this is what's so frustrating when I'm trying to tell people who say, oh, it's climate change, it's climate change. I don't know much about polar ice caps. I don't know much about the Amazon rainforest. But I can tell you when it comes to hurricanes, I've been tracking for decades. And when you see this list of how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 hurricanes that hit Florida with winds of 130 miles per hour and higher, Category 4 or 5s, and you see how many of them happened 80 plus years ago, 1928, 26, 1919, 1935, all of a sudden you realize it's all luck of the draw, guys. We had a slew, look at this, 45, 47, 48, 49, 1950. Monster Category 4s hitting Florida. 2 of the worst hurricanes in American history, 26 and 28, back-to-back, Great Miami, Lake Okeechobee. You could pass all the legislation you want. Go ahead and pass it. Pass the spending. You could talk about it all you want till you're blue in the face. Nothing is going to change hurricanes. Nothing. The people who say this are so highly educated that I cannot believe they're so dense. It's no different than the people 300 years ago who burned witches at the stake every time a blizzard moved through New England. Nowadays, they blame it on climate change. You want to know what it's going to be 300 years from now? Weather. That's all it is. We have a tornado watch box out because this storm is dragging across, and we do have that threat of severe weather. We've already had a lot of tornadoes with this system. And the rainfall is going to be a problem. Watch this as it leaves Florida and in 3 days heads towards the Carolinas, and then further on up, we're going to have moisture move all the way into areas there of the eastern seaboard. The final analysis for Hurricane Ian, severe life-threatening storm surge 8 to 10 feet above ground level, is ongoing still. That water will eventually recede. Hurricane force winds are still moving across the central part of Florida, and that's expected through east central Florida overnight and through early Thursday. Number 3, widespread catastrophic life-threatening flooding, major to record river flooding. That's going to continue all the way across Florida with that rainfall into southeast Georgia and eastern South Carolina tomorrow and through the end of the week. And finally, there is a danger of life-threatening surge Thursday and Friday in northeast Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, and hurricane conditions possible. Residents in that area should batten down the hatches. Again, we have dealt a severe blow to Florida, and Ian's not done yet. I did want to make a quick apology. This system out here is a tropical depression. Earlier today, I referenced it as Tropical Storm Julia. I was mistaken. It was not upgraded, and it is not expected to become Julia. It should dissipate out here like many other storms. But boy, for all the talk about how we didn't have a single storm in August, are we hurricane people, or even the people down there in Florida, ever going to forget hurricane season 22? Not after Hurricane Ian. And we've still got a ways to go. I'm Mike Naso. I'll be back next time with more on Hurricane Ian, a devastating strike, a Category 4 hurricane that struck Florida, September 2022, southwest Florida being devastated. A very nasty storm. Not many get the adrenaline going and that fear the way this storm did when I woke up this morning. Some have. Charlie did, Katrina did, but it's a rare event to wake up and have that rush of adrenaline that we are really under the gun from a serious record-breaking storm. But we were, and it happened. I'm Mike Naso, and I will talk to you guys next time with more on the tropics and devastating Hurricane Ian.